Now, the domestic index and currency are poised to track gains today after a sluggish close yesterday. The JSE closed marginally weaker on Thursday, with global peers mixed as investors digested data showing the US economy slowed below estimates. The rand is still holding steady, just about the 19 rand to the dollar mark. For a look at what's driving this business news today, we are joined now by Bianca Botes, who is the Executive Director at Citadel Globa. Bianca, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Now, please give us an overview of how the rand is looking this morning. I mean, it was for a second yesterday, it looked like it was going to be firm below the 19 rand to the dollar mark. How's it looking now?
So this morning we are trading just above the 1905 level, and as you mentioned, yesterday we actually saw the rand gain back some of its recently lost ground to trade below that 19 rand mark, but we were unfortunately unable to hold on to those losses as the trading day progressed. The rand has been trading mostly range-bound for the most part of the week and continues to take its cues from global markets with a specific focus on the US.
Now, Bianca, the US GDP expanded by 1.6% in the first quarter, well below the forecast growth of 2.4%. What clues does this data give us about that state of the global economy?
It was quite an unexpected outcome, given the high inflation levels in the US. And this really causes some concerns around whether or not the US will still be able to have a soft landing as the tight monetary policy continues to weigh down on growth. It really indicated to us that we are now starting to see those growth erosion on the back of the tight monetary policy. And hopefully what we will also see on the back of lagging growth is that inflation will start to decline in line with the slowing economy.
Well-received news there. Investors are now also looking out for the Fed's preferred measure of inflation, the Personal Consumption Expenditure Index for the March which is due today. Your expectations from that data?
The market is expecting the PCE index to accelerate by 2.5% year on year, and the core PCE index is expected to accelerate by 2.7% year on year. This indicator is basically an average of the increase in prices for all domestic personal consumption. And what this reading will tell us is exactly what price pressure domestic consumers are facing and give us a better sense of inflation trajectory in the US and what that means for the economic environment as well as interest rates moving forward.
And for us in South Africa, will it have a dominoes effect as usual?
Well, I think it's very important to take inflation data into context. I think, there's a lot of factors that actually contribute to inflation around the world. And it doesn't necessarily mean that if inflation in the US starts to pull back, that we'll see a pullback in South Africa, because there are various factors that actually impact inflation in different demographics. But if we can see a decrease in inflation and we can move closer to an environment where the Fed is positioned to cut rates, we can expect to see some rand strengthening on the back of that. And that then starts to paint a better picture for local inflation.
And a strengthened rand is exactly what we are looking for. But gold prices slipped on yesterday as investors booked profits after a sustained rally. Any gains this morning?
Gold is trading slightly higher this morning at $2,330, but it's just over 2% weaker for the week. The gold market will continue to take its cues from interest rate outlooks and demand for safe haven assets, so geopolitical conflict and how that continues to unfold. And then exactly what the Fed intends to do in terms of interest rates. There is an opportunity cost for investors when they choose to invest in gold that doesn't give an interest return versus, let's say, higher yielding assets. So the moment that we start seeing the market positioning for lower interest, gold demand normally tends to increase.
Well, thank you so much for your time and your insights this morning. That was Bianca Botes, who is the Executive Director at Citadel Globa.